Why are so many people disappearing in national parks? There are several national parks in the United States of America. In 2021, almost 300 million people visited one of the 423 national park locations in the United States. They cover a total area of more than 84 million acres and may be found in all 50 states as well as in the territories. But there is a darker side to these unspoilt and gorgeous environments. Since 1916, when the National Park Service was established, over 1,600 Americans have vanished without a trace while in these parks. Where have these people disappeared to? It is often difficult to say. The National Park Service assigns local law enforcement the responsibility of locating and solving or closing missing person cases, and since there is no government database of those who have vanished on these public lands, it is impossible to identify patterns or similarities in their disappearances. Obviously, some incidents of missing individuals may be explained by catastrophic tragedies that are intrinsic dangers of exploring the great outdoors, such as animal attacks, falls from mountain peaks, and exposure to harsh weather. As the National Parks Agency lacks a database for tracking the number of missing persons, no one even knows how many individuals are now missing in parks. The sheer number of missing people instances that qualify as unusual is another factor. The alarm is finally raised. An author who was previously a police officer was on vacation in one of these parks when two off-duty park guards approached him and urged him to investigate the number of people who go missing in the national park system. They were too fearful of repercussions to appear in uniform and requested anonymity about the national park they work for. David Paulides has now documented the phenomenon in 6 books due to the peculiarity and quantity of the examples he discovered. The Missing 411 series examines what Paulides describes as a mysterious series of worldwide disappearances, defying logical and conventional explanations. Even though Paulides is not the most credible source, he is also a cryptozoologist who has spent years investigating Sasquatch. His research raises concerns that would make anybody curious. Have we got your attention yet? Because it just gets weirder from here. There are many mysterious disappearances over the years. We have combed through them and picked some of the most confounding. Alfred Balehartz, 1938. The 4-year-old Alfred and his family were away for a weekend of camping and enjoyment in the Rocky Mountains. Alfred vanished while hiking with his father beside the roaring river. As the hunt for Alfred escalated, tracking dogs were able to detect his scent and trace it for another half-mile until it abruptly ended. After the first day of searching, a couple was hiking 6 miles further and 3,000 feet higher along the Old Fall River Road when they saw a small boy sitting on a rock at the summit of Mount Chapin in a location known as the Devil's Nest. They were certain it was Alfred Balehartz. After reporting the sighting to park officials, the area was searched. No trace of Albert was ever recovered, and he was never found. What became of Albert? How did he vanish without making any noise? Why did his scent trail end after such a short distance? How could a 4-year-old travel over the hilly terrain 3,000 feet higher and 6 miles away? Paula Weldon, 1946. The Green Mountain National Forest region around Glastonbury Mountain and Vermont's Long Trail is referred to by paranormal enthusiasts as the Bennington Triangle. A number of inexplicable disappearances occurred in the region between 1945 and 1950. However, many more have been reported throughout the years. Joseph A. Citro, a paranormal novelist, coined the Bennington Triangle name due to the allegedly otherworldly circumstances surrounding these disappearances. Paula Weldon was the second person reported missing within this section of Green Mountain National Forest during this time frame. In December 1946, Weldon, a college student of age 18, started off on the Long Trail. She wore jeans, a coat, and shoes, which were appropriate for strolling but not for a lengthy trek. Her outfit suggested that she intended to return before dusk, but the temperature was expected to fall below freezing. Weldon informed her roommate that she was going for a long walk and never returned. Several individuals saw her hitchhiking to the path and walking to the trailhead. When Weldon did not return before dusk, her roommate notified the school and a search was started. Students were excused from class to aid in the search. The process was initially haphazard until Weldon's father requested help from authorities in 2 neighboring states. Unfortunately, the search was unsuccessful, and her family and friends had their own opinions as to what happened to her. Did Weldon run off with a boyfriend? Was she abducted? Did she commit suicide? Or did she die of exposure because of her inappropriate attire? John Devine, 1997. One feature of Olympic National Park in northern Washington state is less spectacular than its mountain vistas. In the previous 25 years, at least 4 hikers have suddenly vanished from the region, including 73-year-old John Devine. Devine intended to trek into the park from Mount Baldy in 1997. Although Devine was elderly, he was an experienced long-distance hiker. Devine and his friend Greg Balzer were camping in the park. One day Balzer went hunting whilst Devine went on a day walk. Devine never returned. The unsuccessful search for Devine lasted a whole week until a rescue chopper disaster claimed the lives of 3 people and wounded 5 more. At that point, the weather had worsened, decreasing the likelihood of locating Devine. Friends and relatives of Devine said that he would never want to put others in risk on his behalf, and the search was cancelled. The accident of the search helicopter is as strange as Devine's disappearance. The pilot made a hand gesture to say that he would wait 5 minutes for the weather to improve before attempting departure. Moments thereafter, the helicopter abruptly departed in a vertical direction and crashed into the mountainside. Cian McLaughlin, 2021. Since June 2021, a 27-year-old Irishman visiting Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming has been missing. The last confirmed sighting of Cian McLaughlin, a native of Dublin, places him in the vicinity of Taggart Lake. This is situated on a challenging 8-mile trail in the wilderness of the park. When he did not report for work, he was reported as missing. His vehicle was discovered nearby, which prompted a search that officially concluded 2 weeks later. 45 helicopter searches and other high-tech instruments have yielded no clues to his whereabouts. His family and the U.S. National Park Service have subsequently distributed a poster with his portrait, information, and the hashtag #FindCian to keep him in the minds of local tourists. The disappearance is even more perplexing given that his uncle identified the trailhead in question as his favorite to hike. Another hiker reported spotting McLaughlin without a backpack, so it looked like he had just gone for a walk and disappeared. Larry Jeffrey, 1966. A little distance from Las Vegas, 6-year-old Larry Jeffrey vanished near the summit of 12,000-foot Mount Charleston in Humboldt-Toliabe National Forest. The search started at once after the child walked away from his siblings, and the National Guard and a pack of bloodhounds joined the hunt within days. In a television interview, David Paulides informed reporter George Knapp that there were no predators on the loose that day, and since they were in a remote place, it's simple to rule out a forcible kidnapping. When Jeffrey vanished, he was wearing light fabric clothing, and officials doubted that he could withstand the nighttime cold. Multiple times, searchers found and lost his scent, and they uncovered evidence that the youngster had consumed insects and foraged for fruit along the route. In all, almost 1,000 people looked for him for 16 days, without success. Not only do people mysteriously disappear in national parks, weird things happen in national parks. Some of these occurrences add fuel to the fire when it comes to the mystery and theories trying to explain the disappearance of people visiting these parks. The Devil's Den. In 1946, Catherine Van Alst, a little girl of 8 years old, who was camping with her family in the Devil's Den State Park, vanished. 6 days later, she was discovered seated in a cave 30 miles further and 600 feet higher than the location from where she had vanished. Catherine's incredible composure when she was discovered astonished the search party. Reportedly, she exited the cave without incident and said, "Here I am." It is still a mystery how an 8-year-old child wearing just a swimming suit traveled such a distance without showing any indications of injury. Numerous people assume that Catherine wandered so far away from the camp because she was being pursued by an unknown entity. Grand Canyon National Park. Grand Canyon National Park is perhaps one of the world's most well-known parks. The canyons, slightly less than 1,930 square miles, are laced with secrets and legends. The Hopi, composed of elders, laborers, and hunters, were one of the tribes that inhabited the canyon. Some authors speculate that the tribe created an underground citadel beneath the gorge where they flourished. The Hopi believed in Masaw, who was considered to be the custodian of death. Masaw is supposed to inhabit a certain canyon location. It is said that Masaw is chasing you if you see weird lights approaching from inside the canyon at night, or if you hear the faint tapping of rocks. Although this seems like superstitious nonsense, several people in the area have reported nausea and anxiety quickly after hearing rocks clanking. Despite the area's flatness and lack of perceived risk, several accidents have happened there. The most perplexing case is that of Stephen Kubacki. In February 1978, Stephen, a student, went missing in Michigan, a region known as the Great Lakes Triangle, where hundreds of ships, boats, and planes vanished, as described in a book by Jay Gorley. Stephen had said he was going skiing. Searchers discovered his skis and poles on the shore of Water, Michigan, as well as his footsteps on the ice heading to the lake. The footsteps seemed to suddenly stop. His backpack was discovered in the same general location. 15 months later, on May 5, 1979, Stephen arrived at his father's door and said that he did not recall anything about where he had been. He said that he woke up 40 miles from his father's home in Pittsfield, lying in a meadow while wearing someone else's clothing. Alongside him was a small bag with maps that were not his. He woke up nearly 700 miles from Lake Michigan. He has never discussed his experience. According to many, there is nothing odd about the disappearances, since it is common for individuals to fall from cliffs, drown, or be devoured by bears. National parks, like many other government institutions, are expansive and do not usually interact with one another. There are several disturbing cases if one digs deep enough, and the same may be said about all missing people cases in general. The world is a terrifying realm filled with unsolvable riddles.